So, this woman cooked her 2 children. I'm not using a metaphor. I'm not exaggerating for effect. This is not hyperbole. This woman, a 24-year-old mother in Atlanta, Georgia, allegedly took her 2 baby boys. One of them was 2 years old, the other was 1, and she put them inside her kitchen oven. And then she turned it on, and she murdered them. And if you think that's the most horrific part of this story, you're wrong. Because what she did next is what pushes this case from just pure, unthinkable tragedy into a dimension of evil and psychological horror that I don't even think Dante could have imagined. After her children were dead, after she had burned them alive, she picked up her phone, she opened her video chat app, and she called their father. And she gave him a tour. This is a story that doesn't just make you sad. It doesn't just make you angry. It makes you question the very foundation of humanity. How does a person get here? How does a mother, any mother, get to a place where this is the logical next step? And how does a system, a society, a family let it happen? This isn't just a true crime story. This is a complete system failure. This is the case of Lamora Williams, and it is one of the darkest, most disturbing stories we will ever cover. And I'm gonna warn you right now, this is not a story for the faint of heart. There is no silver lining here. There is no lesson at the end that makes it all okay. This is just a deep, dark look into the abyss, and the abyss is staring right back. So let's meet the people involved in this nightmare. The mother, the perpetrator, is Lamora Williams. In 2017, she's 24 years old, living in a small apartment at the Oakland City West End complex in Atlanta, Georgia. She is, by all accounts, a mother of 4. She has an older daughter who was 6 at the time, but that daughter is mercifully and crucially living with her own father. She is not in the apartment. She is safe. And that might be the only good thing that happens in this entire story. The other 3 children are all boys, and they are all with Lamora. They are her responsibility. There is Jameel Penn Jr., who is 3 years old. There is Jameel Penn, who is 2. And there is the baby, Jacarter Williams, who is just 1 year old. 3 boys, all under the age of 4. The father of these 3 boys is Jameel Penn. He and Lamora are broken up. Their relationship is, well, volatile is an understatement. It's a mess. Jameel is trying to be an active father. He's working, he's trying to see his kids, he's trying to be involved, but Lamora is making it hard. This isn't your normal, we're broken up, it's awkward relationship. There's something else going on here. There's a darkness underneath the surface, and Jameel can feel it. He's worried. He's worried about his kids. He's been worried for a while. He's been telling people that Lamora is acting strange, that her mental state is not just off, it's plummeting. He's so worried that he's actively trying to get custody of his sons. He's trying to get them out. But the system, as we all know, is slow, and it's complicated, and it's not built for emergencies. And Jameel Penn is living in the middle of an emergency. He just doesn't know how bad it is, not yet. The people who do know how bad it is are Lamora's own family, her mother, Brenda Williams, and her sister, Tabitha Hollingsworth. And after this all went down, they came forward and they painted a picture of Lamora that the public had never seen. This wasn't just a stressed out single mom. This was a woman who, according to her own family, had been suffering from severe, untreated mental health issues her entire life. Her sister Tabitha was blunt. She told reporters, "This was something we saw that could possibly happen." Let that sink in. Her own sister saw this coming. She said Lamora had issues from a baby, and that her mother had tried to get help from the state of Georgia, from the Division of Family and Children's Services, known as DFCS. And what did DFCS do? According to the family, nothing. They were, in her sister's words, little help. This wasn't just a bad mood. This wasn't just postpartum depression, though her family suspect that was a huge part of it, especially after Lamora had a miscarriage just before this incident. This was a full-on, lifelong battle. They believe she was dealing with undiagnosed schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. Then, in 2014, her father died, her rock, the person who kept her stable. And after that, she started to spiral. She loses her father. She has a miscarriage. Her boyfriend, Jameel, the father of her 3 boys, leaves her. She's 24 years old. She has no job. She had just gotten a new job but quit or was fired after literally 1 day. She's alone in an apartment with 3 children, ages 1, 2, and 3. She has no money, she has no support, and according to her family, she has a brain that is actively at war with itself. Her sister said that in the run-up to this, Lamora was pushing everyone away. She wouldn't answer the door, she wouldn't answer phone calls. The family was trying to help, but Lamora saw it as an attack. They said they had to fall back because they were afraid that if they pushed too hard, they would just trigger her off. They were walking on eggshells around a bomb, trying to keep the bomb from exploding, all while trying to save the people who were locked in the room with it. They were so desperate that they had called DFCS on her multiple times, worried about the safety of the children. Neighbors also said they knew Lamora would leave the kids home alone, sometimes for hours. The warning signs weren't just red flags, they were giant, screaming, flashing red billboards. And everyone, the state, the system, the social workers, everyone just drove right past them. So that's the setup. That is the pressure cooker that is about to explode. A 24-year-old woman, completely isolated, completely overwhelmed, and by all accounts, in the middle of a severe, untreated psychotic break. And then comes Friday, October 13th, 2017. Friday the 13th. You can't make this up. Jameel Penn would later tell reporters it was like a real horror movie. It was Friday the 13th. Sometime between Thursday night and Friday afternoon, Lamora Williams is in that apartment with her 3 little boys, Jameel Jr., Keontae, and Jakarter, and the pressure cooker explodes. We will never know the exact sequence of events inside that room. We will never know the full, undiluted horror of what those children experienced. The only person who does know, besides Lamora, is the 3-year-old survivor, Jameel Jr., and what he saw, what he must have heard. It's a trauma that no human being should ever have to carry. What we do know is what happened after. We know that sometime on that Friday, Lamora Williams commits the act. According to the arrest warrant, she knowingly and intentionally killed her 2 youngest sons. She takes 1-year-old Jakarter and 2-year-old Keontae, and she places them inside her kitchen oven. And then she turned it on. The medical examiner's report, which I can barely stomach reading, states that the boys died from thermal changes due to dry heat and prolonged exposure to heat. The report adds chillingly that it would require an extensive amount of time to get to this degree. This was not fast. This was not an accident. This was a sustained, deliberate, torturous act. She cooked her children. And then she starts making calls. The first call, according to reports, isn't to the police. It's not to the father. It's to her longtime friend, a woman named Nisa Smith. Nisa picks up, and Lamora is on the other end. I asked her what was wrong, Nisa told a reporter, and she said, "I can't do it no more. I can't do it no more." Then Lamora tells her friend that the boys are dead. Can you imagine being Nisa? Can you imagine getting that call? What do you even say? Nisa, in a state of pure shock and horror, tells her the only logical thing. I said, "Call the police, Mora. Just call the police." But Lamora doesn't call the police. Not yet. She has one more call to make. This is the call that defines the case. This is the call that shows, in my opinion, that this was not just a psychotic break. This was an act of spite. This was an act of revenge. She picks up her phone, she opens her video chat app, and she calls her father. And she gives him a tour.
He's at work. He's probably been trying to reach her all day, worried, like he always is. He sees her name pop up, he answers, and his world ends. It's not a conversation, it's a broadcast. Lamora doesn't say much, she just shows him. She pans the camera around the apartment, and Jameel sees them. He sees his two baby boys, Kayante and Jakarta, lying lifeless on the floor. "After I seen what I seen, you know I called the police," Jameel said later. "When I saw my kid, how I saw my kid, that's when I knew what was going on." Tell me in the comments, what is going through a person's mind to make that call, to make the father of your children watch what you've done? Is that sickness, or is that a level of calculated cruelty that we don't even have a name for? So now we have a cascade of 911 calls. The first one is from Jameel. It is the sound of a man's soul being ripped out of his body. He is frantic, he is screaming, he is begging. "I just received a call from my child's mother. My 2 dead babies, my sons are dead in an apartment." He tells the dispatcher. "I video called him and I seen it," Jameel cries. "I really think they are dead." The police are now on their way, but at the exact same time, another 911 call is coming in. This one is from Lamora Williams herself. And this call is a performance. If Jameel's call was raw, unfiltered horror, Lamora's call is the complete opposite. It's calculated. It's an alibi. She is acting. She is lying. She is trying to set the stage for her innocence before the police even arrive. The call starts with her telling the dispatcher that she just got home from work. "I just left my cousin in the house with my kids. She just left my kids in my house when I came back from work, and my kids, 2 of my kids, are dead. What do I gotta do? They're dead." She's blaming a fictional babysitter, a cousin who doesn't exist, a caregiver who was never there. And then she gives the most graphic, horrific, and rehearsed-sounding description imaginable. "When I came in, the stove was laying on my youngest son's head, and my other son was laid out on the floor with his brains laid out on the floor." Brains laid out on the floor. This is the detail she wants the police to hear. She's trying to create a narrative of a violent accident, something that happened to her, not because of her. She's describing a scene that is gruesome, yes, but also one that doesn't involve an oven. She's trying to throw them off the scent. But then, she makes her fatal mistake. She slips. The mask of the grieving mother falls, and the cold, calculating mind underneath shows itself. She says to the 911 operator, "Can you please help me? Can you please tell me? I don't want to get locked up because this is not my fault. I had just came home from work." I don't want to get locked up. That's her first thought. Not "my babies are dead," not "please hurry, maybe you can save them," not "what happened." Her first thought, her most pressing concern is, "I don't want to get in trouble for this." She's already building her defense. She's already worried about her own skin, while her children are, well, you know. The police arrive at the Oakland City apartments, and they walk into a scene that will haunt them for the rest of their lives. It is pure, unadulterated horror. They find the apartment in disarray, and they find the bodies of 1-year-old Jakarta and 2-year-old Kayante. They are dead. They have, as the reports say, obvious injuries, including burns. The oven has been pulled away from the wall. The stench is unimaginable. The scene it's not something I can even describe. And then, in the middle of this charnel house, they find him, tucked away, hiding. Jameel Jr., the 3-year-old. He is alive. He is physically unharmed. He is the only one who survived. He is the only one who saw what his mother did. He is the only one who was in the room when his brothers were murdered. He is 3 years old. The police get him out of there immediately, and their focus turns to Lamora. The babysitter story evaporates in about 30 seconds. There is no cousin, there is no caregiver, there is no sign of a break-in, there is just Lamora, her dead children, and her surviving son. They arrest her, they take her downtown, and they charge her with 2 counts of murder. And the world explodes. This story goes international. Atlanta mom kills kids in oven. It's a headline that doesn't even sound real. It sounds like something from a medieval fairy tale, a story you tell to scare children, not something that happens in Atlanta in 2017. And the big question, the only question, is why? Why would she do this? And this is where the story splits into 2 completely different, equally tragic narratives. Narrative number 1 is the prosecution's story. This is the story of pure, unadulterated evil. This is spite. This is revenge. The prosecution argued that Lamora was not insane. She was angry. She was furious that Jameel Penn had left her. She was furious that he was trying to get custody. She was furious that he had moved on with his life. So, she decided to destroy his. In this version of the story, the murder-suicide of her children was the ultimate, final FU. It was a way to cause Jameel the most profound, unimaginable, and permanent pain a human being can experience. She was trying to obliterate him emotionally. The proof for this narrative? The video call. You don't video call the father to show him the bodies if you're in the middle of a random, chaotic, psychotic break. You don't do that if you're not in your right mind. That is a taunt. That is a deliberate, calculated, and monstrously cruel act of revenge. That is Lamora standing over the ashes of their life and forcing Jameel to look. It is perhaps one of the most evil things I have ever heard of. Her 911 call supports this too. The lies, the alibi, the I don't want to get locked up. That's not the sound of a woman who is lost in psychosis. That is the sound of a criminal who has just committed a crime and is already trying to get away with it. She knew what was doing was wrong, and she did it anyway, and then she tried to cover it up. That is malice. That is murder in the first degree. But then there is narrative number 2. This is the story told by her family. This is the story of a complete and total failure of the American mental health care system. Her mother, Brenda, and her sister, Tabitha, were at the courthouse not to defend what she did, but to explain how she got there. "I just came from the jail," her mother told a reporter, her voice breaking. "I also let them know to put her on suicide watch because she's gonna kill herself." Her sister looked at Lamora's mugshot, the one that was being plastered all over the news, the one where her eyes are wide, and she looks, frankly, terrifying, and she didn't see a monster. She saw something else. She said that was a demonic spirit took over her. She looks possessed. That didn't even look like her. You could tell there was a spirit on her. Now, demonic spirit or not, what the family is describing is a woman who was not in control of her own mind. They're describing a complete psychotic break. They're painting a picture of a 24-year-old girl who was drowning. Her father died, her partner left, she lost her job, she had a miscarriage, meaning that she was already dealing with the chaos of postpartum hormones, and then she had to deal with the grief of that loss, all on top of a pre-existing, severe, untreated mental illness. In this version of the story, Lamora didn't snap, she shattered. The family says they begged DFCS for help. They told the state that she was a danger to herself and her children, and the state did nothing. So, who is the real killer here? Is it Lamora, or is it the system that watched a woman with a history of mental illness, a recent trauma, and 3 babies, and just let her go? They just left her alone in that apartment with those kids until the inevitable happened. This is the central conflict of the case. Is Lamora Williams a cold, calculating, spiteful monster who murdered her children to get back at her ex, or is she the final victim of a broken system that failed her and her children at every single turn?
The truth is, it's probably both, and that's what makes it so hard. The two are not mutually exclusive. A person can be both profoundly, dangerously mentally ill, and also capable of profound, dangerous evil. If you're still watching this nightmare, you're basically family at this point. Hit subscribe because the story of what happened next is almost as insane as the crime itself. You would think a case like this, a woman who cooked her children and videotaped the father, would be fast-tracked. You'd think the trial would happen in a month. The evidence is overwhelming. You have the bodies, you have the 911 calls, you have the video chat, and most importantly, you have a 3-year-old witness, a survivor, who reportedly saw what happened. This case should be open and shut. But this is the American justice system. This is Fulton County, Georgia. Nothing is open and shut. Lamora Williams is arrested in October 2017. She is charged with 14 counts, including murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, first-degree cruelty to children, and concealing the death of another. She pleads not guilty. And then, nothing. For 7 years, from 2017 to 2024, Lamora Williams sits in the Fulton County Jail. 7 years. Jameel Penn is in agony, waiting for justice. The public has a short memory, and they mostly forget, but this case is just marinating in the broken, backed up, overwhelmed Fulton County court system. Why did it take so long? A few reasons. First, the endless debate over her mental state. The defense, naturally, is building its case around her not being competent to stand trial. This means endless evaluations, psychiatric reports, and hearings. Is she sick or is she faking? Can she understand the charges against her? Can she assist in her own defense? This process alone can take years. Second, COVID. The 2020 pandemic shut down courtrooms across the world, creating a backlog of cases that places like Fulton County are still digging out from under. So a case that was already moving at a glacial pace completely froze. For 7 years, Jameel Penn has to wake up every day knowing the woman who murdered his children is just sitting there, waiting. He has to raise his surviving son, Jameel Jr., who is growing up. Jameel Jr. is 3 when it happens. He's 4, then 5. He starts school. He's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. He has to grow up all this time with the trial, the end, just hanging over his head. Can you imagine what that does to a family? Jameel said he's holding on to a surviving son tight. He has to be a father to a boy who has seen the worst thing a human can see, while also grieving the 2 sons he will never see grow up. A local funeral home had to step in and cover the burial expenses for Keontae and Jakarta because the family was so broken. And all this time, Lamora just waits. Finally, in November of 2024, almost exactly 7 years after the murders, the trial of Lamora Williams finally begins. And it is a legal disaster for her. She's 31 years old now, not 24. She's been in jail for her entire late 20s. And her defense, what is her defense? After 7 years of psychiatric evaluations, what is the grand strategy? The grand strategy is the babysitter. I am not kidding. After 7 years, the defense team walks into court and sticks with the story Lamora told on the 911 call, that she was at work, that she left your kids with a caregiver, and that she came home and found them dead. This is a bold strategy. It's a blame the old man level of denial. The prosecution, on the other hand, has had 7 years to perfect their case. And they don't just have a case. They have an ironclad, iron-airtight, emotionally devastating presentation. They play the 911 calls, they play Jameel's frantic, screaming call, and then they play Lamora's cold, calculating, I don't want to get locked up call. They put her own lies on display for the jury. They show the evidence from the apartment. They bring in the medical examiner, who explains in gruesome detail exactly what prolonged exposure to heat does to a 1-year-old and 2-year-old body. And then they bring in the father, Jameel Penn. He has to get on the stand and talk about that video call. He has to relive the moment his life was destroyed in front of a jury. The defense's fictional babysitter story doesn't stand a chance. It's obliterated. The jury's not gone for long. On Friday, November 15th, 2024, the jury comes back guilty on all 14 charges. 2 counts of murder, 4 counts of felony murder, 2 counts of aggravated assault, 2 counts of first-degree cruelty to children, 2 counts of concealing the death of another. Guilty, guilty, guilty. And the judge, seeing a woman who has maintained her innocence for 7 years in the face of this evidence, shows absolutely no mercy. He sentences Lamora Williams to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And then, just to make sure she never ever gets out, he adds 35 more years on top of that. It's over. Justice, 7 years too late, has finally been served. But has it? Lamora Williams will die in a Georgia state prison. That's a fact. But what does that solve? 2 little boys, Keontae and Jacarte, are still dead. They will never be more than 1 and 2 years old. They will never go to school. They will never have a first crush. They will never know a life without pain. Their entire existence was suffering, capped off by the most monstrous betrayal a child can possibly endure. One little boy, Jameel Jr., is now 10 years old. He is alive, but what is alive? He has to go through his entire life with the memory of what happened in that apartment. He has to know what his mother did to his brothers. He has to know that he was the one that was spared. That is a burden that no child, no adult, no human should ever have to carry. Jameel Penn is holding on to him tight, but the scars from that day will never, ever fade. And one man, Jameel Penn, is a ghost. He said it himself at a vigil for his sons just days after their murder. He was holding his surviving son, Jameel Jr., and he said to the crowd, "I ain't got no soul no more. Jacarte, Keontae, my world meant everything, I'm lost." He got justice in a courtroom, but he will never get his boys back. He will never get his soul back. So who is to blame? Is it Lamora Williams? Yes, 1,000% yes. Even if her mind was broken, she was the one who acted. She was the one who turned on that oven. She was the one who made that video call. She is a monster, or she is a profoundly sick individual who did a monstrous thing. In the end, the victims are just as dead. Life in prison is the only logical outcome for her. But is she the only one to blame? What about the system? What about DFCS? What about the state of Georgia? Her family screamed for help. They told the authorities that this woman was a ticking bomb. They told them there were children in that apartment who were in danger. And the system did what the system does best. It filed a report. It made a note. It did nothing. This case is a testament to the failure of our mental health system. It is a testament to the failure of our child protective services. It is a testament to the fact that we as a society are perfectly happy to let a woman like Lamora Williams, poor, black, and mentally ill, fall through every single crack until she hits the bottom so hard she takes her children with her. We don't want to pay for mental health care. We don't want to pay for robust social services. We don't want to intervene because it's too expensive or too complicated. So instead, we pay for it like this. We pay for it with the lives of 2 little boys. We pay for it with the cost of a 7-year-long court case and the cost of housing a prisoner for the next 60 years. We pay for it with the lifelong trauma of a little boy who saw his brothers die. This story is a tragedy in every single direction. There are no winners. There is no hope. There is just a single awful question that we are all left with. How many more Lamora Williamses are out there right now? How many more ticking bombs are we ignoring, all because we just don't want to listen? Tell me in the comments, because I genuinely don't know. What could have stopped this? Was it the family's fault for falling back? Was it Jameel's fault for not getting there sooner? Was it the state's fault for not listening? Or was this just one woman, one monster, and one terrible, inevitable act of evil? Let me know. And if you made it through this, thank you for watching. This was one of the hardest stories I've ever had to tell. I'll see you in the next one.